Hi friends! Today is my birthday, and it's not a very important birthday. I'm turning 37, which is a really boring age, except that I got a mountain dulcimer as a 7th birthday present, which means that today marks the 30th anniversary of me becoming a mountain dulcimer player. So I've been reminiscing about the last 30 years of my journey, and I wanted to take you back in time to some of my favorite memories from those early years. So here's a picture of little Erin with her sister and their instruments. And like most of you, I started by learning to play Pull Them Cabbage. I learned it from Larkin Bryant Cohen's Dulcimer Method book. It was one of the first pages, and she taught us in that book to play some strum patterns. She started with peppermint, 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 peppermint. And if you've taken a dulcimer workshop from me about strumming, you know that I use that exact same method to help people strum smoothly to this very day. She had some other patterns in there, like I remember red fiddle sing, sing, red fiddle sing, sing. And another one that went sing, Mr. Mississippi, sing, Mr. Mississippi. And that's how I learned how to strum. Well, fast forward not too long, and I met David Schnoffer at the Walnut Valley Festival, and he had recently released a book called Swing 9 Yards of Calico. And the very first song in that book is Wildwood Flower. And I would sit on the floor with a dulcimer in my lap, playing Wildwood Flower over and over again. That book had a cassette tape with it, and I totally wore out the first 3 minutes of the tape. I played Wildwood Flower so many times that to this day my sister will not play or listen to Wildwood Flower. Totally wore out on it. But I do remember that Wildwood Flower was one of those tunes I kept working on. I kept adding things to it. I learned how to flat pick with this tune. I learned how to add hammer-ons and pull-offs. And one of the very first workshops that I ever taught as a teenager was at the Prairie Dulcimer Club in Kansas City. And I taught the tune Wildwood Flower and how to do those hammer-ons and pull-offs and flat picking. And it was all thanks to that first book with Wildwood Flower at the beginning from David Schnoffer. Well, another year or so goes by, and I met Steve Yulberg. He put up some signs around the campground at the Walnut Valley Festival that said Dulcimer-friendly worship service. And I have fond memories of that, except for the part where he had written a Dulcimer-friendly worship service in DAA, and I knew how to play my dulcimer in DAD. So he very kindly scrapped his whole plan for the evening, and we played Jesus Loves Me. Called it a worship service. His campmates joined in. He showed me a couple things about how to play the mountain dulcimer. Later that year, I met the first and only dulcimer teacher I ever had. His name is Jim Curley, and Jim Curley owned a store called the Mountain Music Shop in Kansas City. It was about a 3.5-hour drive from my house to his shop. My parents would drive about once a month to bring me to the shop an hour before it opened on Saturdays. And Jim would teach me a tune or two. One of the first tunes he taught me was this one called Spotted Pony. I remember him telling me that this tune was very popular at dulcimer gatherings. I had no idea what that meant because I had never heard of a dulcimer gathering. And I had never seen more than 2 dulcimers in the same place, but I was pretty excited about it. So the next year at the Walnut Valley Festival, I ran into Steve Yulberg again, and I said, I learned a new tune called Spotted Pony that's very popular at Dulcimer gatherings. And he said, I don't know that tune. I was a bit crestfallen, but he saved the day when he said, well, teach it to me. And so I did, and we played Spotted Pony, and it was the beginning of what has become a really great friendship over the years. And then a year or two after that, at the Walnut Valley Festival, yet again, David Schnoffer was back, and he was there with this guy named Steven Seifert. And Steven Seifert and David Schnoffer taught an all-day workshop. I was 12 years old. The year was 1999. I remember this part very distinctly. And they taught a tune called Elk River Blues. I fell in love with that tune. Played it all year. Steven Seifert had a long chat with me and my family. Told us about Dulcimer festivals. It was a thing that existed. There were some not too far from us. We could start attending them. He told me about Dulcimer Players News, a way to get connected to other Dulcimer players. And he suggested that I start entering some contests, because it would be a great way to meet some other Dulcimer players, learn more about this cool instrument. So I went back the next year. I entered the national contest for the first time. I didn't win, but I did in fact meet a lot of other great Dulcimer players. And David Schnoffer and Steven Seifert were back again, and they invited me to play this song on stage with them. It was one of the greatest highlights of my Dulcimer playing, still to this day. And the rest, as they say, is history.